Hello everyone, I'm Mike and I'm going to show you many of the functions that I use on a day-to-day basis with mPower. You can also view videos individually on each of these functions under the help menu here within each uh, area here. So if I went to subtotals, I can view the video, or delete filtered rows, I can do the video, and you also have a little bit of help here for each of the functions that are listed here. Today I'm working with a file downloaded from the ERP system of sales information, and this file has many columns in it because when I download data from the ERP system, it's generally from a table that has many more elements than I really care about. For example, this file has several important elements I need related to sales by sales office, but it has a bunch of other noise that I would rather just get rid of. As you can see, I've got headers and filters on this tab already. If we look at this tab over here, which is a mirror image of the one you were just looking at, this is the actual download file that comes from the system, and it does not have headers. Well, it's got a header row. That's because that came from the system, but it doesn't have headers as it's defined in Excel. So I took that and made a copy of it here, and I applied my headers. Now in my settings, I can actually change things about, let's say, the header, the color. I can add filters, grid lines. Uh, I can make the header, let's say, 10% larger than the data that I'm looking at. I can left center, right, justify it. So we'll just, for example here, I'm going to save this and reapply my headers. And now this has gotten 10% larger, and I've got centered uh, header labels. So you can change these on the fly in these settings, and then it's saved for all spreadsheets that you would be applying this to once you save it here. So I could go back and set it back to 0 if I wanted for the next time, and say left justify if that's what I want to be my standard for most of my files. So I want to get rid of a bunch of columns here, because if you see as I drag across, there are hundreds of columns that came from the system, and only a few of them are really important to me. So I'm going to select the Remove Columns option here. And what that does, it might take a minute here when you have many columns with a lot of data, because it's going through and checking every column for a unique count of elements. So it will propose to me what ones are candidates to be deleted. I can delete any column I want. So it should be done here in a second. There we go. As you see, it listed out all the columns with the unique number of values it found per column. So in this first column, it found one unique value with 100 all the way down in it. And the next one, the same thing. Sales office, column C, there were 53 uniques. Trans type, there were 2. So we have in-store and mail order, so on and so forth. For dates, it shows the numeric value. Um, we might be changing that, but for right now, it just shows a numeric. And if we go down here, you see all these different values it shows. Now, to make it easier, I can sort it by count. So it's showing me all the columns that have one value in it. And maybe I just think I don't really need any of those. And I can also sort it by value. So like here, I'm just going to start highlighting these columns. I don't need any of these because they're meaningless to me. So I'm just going to go all the way down here. Let's see, I don't need any of this. I'll keep the dates. So let's just stop here. I guess I could highlight a couple more. I don't need this, this, or this. And let's just say continue. And just like that, we've got a much more condensed file with just the elements that I might really care about here. So these are individual sales records, and I'm going to want to sum it by certain criteria like office or type. If you notice over here, though, I've got my amount, and this is a debit credit indicator. So the system stores this field in absolute value, and you've got to look at your debit credit indicator to determine if it's positive or negative. So this would be a sale, and this would be a return here. So obviously I can't just sum this column. But what I'm going to do is filter out all my H records here, which are returns. So I just hit display, and right there I have just a list of H records. Then I can highlight this column, go into my number format, and I'm just going to toggle. So I just changed all of those returns to negative. If I get rid of my filter here, you'll see it here. And maybe I don't like that number format, so I'm going to go in here and highlight this again. And I'm going to say, let's make it accounting red, suppress zeros. I like that better. So now I have something that's a little easier to visualize, at least for me. So now I want to subtotal some information on my sales office and type of transaction. So I'll hit my subtotal, and what that does is presents me all the columns, and I'm just going to click this and my trans type, and I can have this multi-level or single level, and I can have the results placed below the column, so below column F or to the right side of the spreadsheet. So I'm going to place them to the right side of the spreadsheet and have it multi-level totals. So I'm going to take my local amount here. Oh, I double clicked it. I didn't want to do that. I can just pull it from here down here now. And what else do I want to put over there? Just for the heck of it, I'm going to put this amount over here, which is also absolute. So these numbers won't actually come up with the same value, but it's just for demonstration purposes. And I can sum these, or I can do other things, like I can do the minimum. So it's going to show me the minimum for each of these. And I could do the max. I can do a hierarchy count. So say, show me how many levels I have above that you'll see in a second here. So now I'm going to hit continue. And what it just did, it gave me a nice breakdown of each of the sales office and then type of transaction. And then if we go off to the right here, just because I said to put it to the right of it, you show individual columns for column F total and then the column O totals. So you have it by Atlanta in store and then Atlanta. So this is if there was in store and mail order, you'd see two breaks here. And we can see that if I just filter on this, let's just filter on these two objects. So let's display those. So now we're just seeing summary totals. So this one has in-store and mail order, and you can see this one also had a return. So hopefully this is going to be very powerful for you. Maybe I didn't really want to see it by sales office and in-store. Maybe I wanted to swap that. I can go right back to my subtotals, and it remembers my last settings, and I can just move this one above and now do it by trans type than sales office. and we'll see what it looks like. And actually, let's just get rid of one of these. We don't need to see this one either anymore. There we go. So now I've got all my in-store and then sales office, and then after that you would see, let's just filter on this. After that, oops, we need level 1 and level 2. So what I want to do here, if I just hide this, because I know that this is a detail, I'll just hide that. Now I'm going to see all the in-store and the offices, and below that, we got a break here. Let's get up here a little more. What happened there? Sorry about that, people. In-store, there you go, in-store totals. We had 49 offices. The minimum amount was $89,000, and this is my sum. Then we got our mail order below that. Let's say I want to see the subtotals below the column versus off to the right like this. So I can just do this again, and I can just say same column, but it'll be below it. Okay. And now we've got our subtotals, as you can see, right below each detail record in the same column here. Let's say I want to just go back to my raw data the way I started. If I just go and say remove subtotals, then I'm back to what I started with. It is now just the raw data. Let's say that I'm looking at this sheet over here, and I know that I've got information in my other sheet that's related to it. Let's say for some reason I just want to see these document numbers in the other sheet. So I can copy them, and I can actually do this from my central ERP system too. I could copy a column, number of records, go over here and put them in this column and say display. And right there, it just filters it to just what I had from another source. It's like a VLOOKUP without having to go through the trouble of a VLOOKUP. So let's say I don't care about these records in the file. I can simply hit my delete rows, and it will propose me with an option to, first of all, create a backup tab of the original data. And I can remove the hidden rows or the displayed row. In this case, I just want to get rid of the displayed rows. And there we go. So now we've got rid of the items I didn't really care about, and now I'm down to just the data that I need to work with. Now let's say I want to look up another file that has certain keys that are the same to look for elements that I need to bring back. And for purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to change one of these values here. So no doc. And as you remember, I had this file here that has all of the master data. So if I take this file and compare it to this file, and if that's part of the key, it will not find it for that one that I just overlaid. So I'm going to execute the lookup function, and it proposes your files here. And for this, it's defaulting to the file I'm in, and it assumes you don't want to be looking in the actual file, tab that you're in, and you probably want to look in a different tab. But you can look in the same tab, just to let you know. But yes, I want to look in the BSAD number 2 tab here, so I'm going to continue. And what I can do here, I can highlight all of these columns, so I can take a continuous range of values, let's say all the way up to A through F here. So sales office all the way through local currency amount. And I want to look it up here. These are in the same order. Sales office. No, they're not in the same order. Let me go back because I deleted some columns. Bear with me. Okay, let's just do A through E here. If I go here, so all of these are the same except for that one value that I changed. It's going to find a hit for all of these. And the screen presents me with a list of columns I can bring back from the other file. And as you can see, every column is listed here. So let's just say I want to bring these over. And I can actually highlight over here and say add it, and it would put it right there. I could have put them anywhere I wanted. And actually, I can, since these are the same named columns, and let's say I wanted to analyze them side by side, I can just hit that, and it's going to line them up for me. I can replace the columns, so it would replace the values if it finds a hit with the value from the other file. And I can also put them in an order of just underneath everything. So I'm going to do side by side here. And also with local currency amount, I want to sum it just for purposes of this demonstration. So it's going to take everything it finds a hit for that key in my source table and sum it. But thinking about it, in this case, I've got it down to a document level, so it won't actually have any values that get summed together. But for purposes of this demonstration, I think you understand that this would just sum all the values where the key was the same. Let's also say I don't like the labels that are in there, so I can change this label and say sale / return. And now that column will say that when it comes back. Another thing I can do is include source references. And what this does is it will bring back, based on my configuration settings I'll be showing you, it'll bring back either the column that it was sourced from, the tab it was sourced from, and or the file it was sourced from. Another thing we can do is you can do matching by a strict match where every character's got to be the same, a soft match where it doesn't care about leading, trailing spaces, and it treats numbers as characters, unlike the VLOOKUP, which you have to have the exact same format. And an extra soft one actually gets rid of special characters and just compares letters and numbers. But generally I use a soft match. Let's say I don't care about the assignment field. I can just double click that and that sends it back to the other side, so it won't add it to my results. Another thing I can do is I can compare. So in a file like this, maybe you're trying to compare where you have some differences. And what it does, it presents, if I go into this, it presents me with all the columns that I can manually move across here to compare, or it defaults them if it has the same um, name. So let's say I want to keep all these, and I want to say, are they equal, true or false, the same? I can do a true or false. But let's also say I want to compare clearing dock here to something else down here, let's say item, which is illogical, but I'm just going to do this for the sake of showing you this. And let's say I want to use, if the values are different, one is returned. And this is good if you're looking for differences. So we'll see one with all of these. So this is going to return me, analysis of column level elements. And I can put them on the A side here, right to the left or the right of the A side, to the right of the B side, or at the end of the list. And I'm just going to put them at the end of the list. And let's continue. So there we go. One row found no match. And as you can see it here, it's right here because I overlaid that. So those keys, those 5 or so keys that I put in, it found matches on everything but this. And you can actually combine up to 30 columns and compare from one sheet to another. Another thing that's nice, we see that 2 rows found multiple matches. And if you expect unique records, this is a good thing to weed out where you have duplicates in a file. I did not include my record count, and I would have needed to do that to be able to filter on the 2 that found multiple matches. Otherwise, I'd have to look and figure it out manually. So this is a nice summary of everything it did. It took 5 seconds. There were 498 target rows because we had deleted a handful, if you remember, and there were 507 source rows. All but one found a match. 12 columns were added. Okay. And as you can see, the columns were added with the label, and it says column F from this file. And if you remember, I said include sources, and that comes from here in settings. So if I say add source column in the column description, that's when we get column F here, column G, that was the source column. I could have also said add source tab, but I did not, and add source file, which I did here. So this is config where you can leave them all on and then use an option here to prompt you to actually add them or to not add them into each of your results when you do this lookup function. And the color here we set is for the color that's returned because you might want to have a different color than you normally use, so you know that it came from a different source. That's always valuable to me. Okay. So now, like I said, we've got all these columns we added, and we put them wherever we want. We go off to the right here. You'll see the matching options I used. And in this case, there's one that was not the same. So let's just filter on the falses here. Okay. So in this case, H and I over here, H and I are different because these are the ones that I had flipped the sign on. So that's why it gives me a false. So this is very good in giving you the ability to analyze things without having to put all your own formulas in. It automatically does it for you. And if there is no match, I return a value that says no match here. So that's how you know that there was a record that did not find a corresponding hit. And I think that's about it. I hope that helps, and I hope mPower can help your daily Excel processing activities as much as it does mine. Thanks again. Bye.